Hey, good evening, USA, International Canada, Long Island, aka Strong Island, the tri state areas of New Jersey, Connecticut, plus the five spots of Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, and Queens. This is your man and homie, G Money Stacks, aka the Gregonator, rhymes with now or later. Your host with the most, misunderstood, lonely nomad, unstoppable independent podcaster, creator, YouTuber, Queens, New York native, who's also a New York Mets fan and New York Giants fan from the neck of the woods of Laurelton, Queens, New York. And yes, you're now rocking with me by tuning in, listening, streaming, and watching the 107th episode of the Sports Edition Show. Excellent, fun, vibrant talks podcast. And man, I got some I got some sports topics for you today involving a little bit of breaking news involving the New York Mets falling apart, and along with the New York Giants and many more. So yeah. In case anybody didn't know, of course the New York Mets fell apart. Got shut out by the Florida Marlins and stuff. So I'll break that down in a couple of seconds. Um, yeah, I'll break that down in a couple of seconds. Um, in the meantime, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel page, the sports YouTube channel page, and of course, leave a like and a comment along with the sports topics. Tell me how you feel about the sports topics, including what happened with the Mets after their last game and all that other stuff. All that in due time. And then we got another breaking news involving Brett Baty's injury involving an oblique. So we'll get that. We'll get to that in a sec. So, um, you know what? Usually I'll be watching Subway the Shade podcast, but I want to actually get some stuff off my chest in regards to the last game I seen. So, you know what I'm saying? So I just, you know, I'm gonna express how I feel about this too, but you can't listen. I'll get to all that in a sec. So why don't we get started with a little bit of football news and stuff, man. With starting with this, the quick side bleacher bar, man. All right, let's get this show cranking up right now, man. As I go through these sports topics and stuff, man. So there you go, there you go. Queens, Queens, New York native. Quick side bleacher bar. Let's go. Now, okay, got a little bit of breaking news that I want to get to actually. So let's get started with that, and I'll get to the New York Giants in a sec. Actually, yeah, yeah, let's do that. Um, yeah, let's do that. So this is some breaking news right here. This is from Sports Illustrated. Here's what's happening here, man. The historic collapse by the New York Mets is complete. I wouldn't call that shit a collapse. It just seems like they fell apart. It just seems like they fell apart and they were very tired. So I'll break that down in a sec. So the Mets, who have the second highest payroll in baseball and at one point held the best record in baseball, will not be playing in the 2025 postseason. Their fate was sealed after falling on 4-zip to the Miami Marlins on the final day of the regular season in what can only be called one of the most devastating disintegrations in franchise history. New York headed into Sunday's game against Miami, needing a win plus a loss by the Cincinnati Reds to secure the third and final wildcard spot in the National League. However, using a season high 8 pitchers in this game wasn't enough, as a 4-run fourth inning by the Marlins stunned the Mets and sent them home. Wow. Wow. Nobody's shocked by this shit though. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's shocked about this. And you gotta feel for all right. Yeah, that shit is crazy. Hmm. Hmm. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Trying to figure what the hell's going on with my sound effects actually. Yeah, with my sound effects, I'm gonna have to. Yeah. So, all right. Let me just sum this up in regards to the horrible loss, though, man. The Yeah, yeah, of course, a lot of shit went wrong, though, especially June 13th and all that other stuff, right? Of course, the injuries played a role, but then you have you have the inconsistencies of the offense and defense. Then you have then you have the mental mistakes, the mental errors, all that stuff is plays a role though. And yes, a lot of people are basically blaming David Stearns for not getting like a better starting pitcher, but he went the cheap way. Look, sometimes when you sometimes when you trying to go for a sometimes when you go for a starter, I think it depends on the the asking price. And if the asking price sometimes is too high, then you have no other choice but to go the cheap route. And it I'm not saying that it's going to be I'm not saying that cheap stuff's going to help this team, but sometimes you can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. And 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 yes, it is frustrating. And there were some things that went wrong. And well, I'm not one of those individuals who is going to be, on a high horse because of every Mets lost. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to win every game. It's 162 games, and you can talk all you want about no excuses or anything like that, but mental mistakes is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. Injuries is going to happen. Inevitable. You can't, like, you know what I mean. All these fucking analytics and all the high expectations is just the thing that kind of got to the Mets players. I think that's what really got them a little down because it's not that they weren't playing that they're not playing good baseball, but you know, and it seems to me that they really failed in not doing their best. And believe it or not, I mean, you know, you gotta really understand that baseball games are not easy to play, and a lot of times, you know, pe- people get caught up in the idea of trying to go to the playoffs or anything like that. But at the same token, I think I think some of the Mets fans forgotten that they had an injury to Brett Baty with the oblique. Now, now I feel for the guy that he is out for the season, and yeah, and there's some people who are basically wanting a clean slate, a clean house or whatever. But all that's gonna have to really, 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 all that's gonna have to wait, man. Like, believe it or not, all that's gonna have to wait though, man. But yeah, and this is my issue. Of course they weren't playing good defense. Of course they made bad throws. And of course you got pitchers who gave up runs. Yeah, we see that all the time. We see that all the time. And you wonder why, you know, you wonder why some of the Mets fans get pissed off. Yes. And it's understandable, and I kind of get why a lot of people get your Dexter Henrys and every single Mets fan out there that's actually doing this shows in frustration. And I always say at the end of the podcast, when it comes to sports, is that especially in baseball, there is no overnight fix. And I say there's no overnight fix because all this shit takes time. Like, you gotta understand, all these things take time. Like, you're not going to be able to get everything overnight. You feel what I'm saying? I'm just like flabbergasted. I know many of y'all are flabbergasted. They couldn't even believe what happened, actually. Yeah, they couldn't believe what happened. Unbelievable. Yeah, you know what? You know what? You know what? Yeah, let's get it. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay, New York Mets. Yeah, it's not really a collapse per se. It's more like they fell apart. Yeah, they fell apart. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they fell apart though, man. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. They fell apart. Let me find yeah, where yeah. Yeah, so let me just get in let me just keep going on where I left off here actually. Yes, so New York Mets heading into Sunday's game against Miami. Yeah, they went home. Yeah. So even though the Reds lost to the Milwaukee Brewers, they now have that final wild card spot thanks to owning the season series tiebreaker over the Mets. Now, you probably wondering what went wrong, right? Expectations could not have been any higher for the Amazons this year after coming within 2 games of the World Series last year, as well as signing Juan Soto to a record-setting contract and bringing back homegrown star Pete Alonso during the offseason. That excitement reached a fever pitch after a strong start to the 2025 campaign, which built a major league best 45 out of 24 at home, actually. Well, wait, no, 45 out of 24 record heading into June 13th, and a 5.5 game lead in the NL East. Yeah, wait a minute, 45 out of 24. That's at Citi Field. Okay, so that's at Citi Field. But from there, an unthinkable 3.5 months downfall proceeded. The Mets were one of the worst teams in baseball since that great start, with a 38-55 record from June 13th to September 28th to finish the year with a disappointing 83-79 record. Um, there's no word to describe what we're going through. It's pain, it's frustration, you name it. Manager Carlos Mendoza said to reporters after Sunday's loss, came in with a lot of expectations, and here we are going home. Not only did we fall short, but we didn't even get into October. And this is a team that is built to not only get into October, but to play deep into October. Um, the Mets will now have some difficult decisions to make this offseason, while Andy Martino of SNY reported shortly after Sunday's game that the Mets have no plans to fire Mendoza. Pete Alonso is expected to opt out of his 2-year, $54 million deal. All-star closer Edwin Diaz could also follow in Alonso's steps, as the 5-year, $102 million contract that he signed with New York in November 2022 has an opt-out after this year. For now, the Mets can only go home, turn the page to 2026, and forget about the truly unfathomable collapse. Yeah, that shit is rough, man. That shit is so rough. Like, it's not even funny. And another thing that happened was Brett Baty. All right. You probably wondering what happened with him and his injury. Okay. So let's see. Um, let's see. All right, so Brett Baty. Here's what's happening with this guy. Brett Baty attempted baseball activities Saturday before determining he couldn't perform unless the Mets reached the playoffs and plunged deep into October. The third baseman's season is definitely over after he was placed on the injured list with a right oblique injury, which really, really fucking sucks. Um, Baty felt the initial discomfort a night earlier on a swing and was removed from the game. Baty has not yet received an MRI exam on the oblique. The emotional discomfort might have run deeper than the physical. Um, it hurts a lot, Baty said, referring to his disappointment level. But I am going to root on my teammates, and we're going to try to go to the postseason. Baty indicated he's never dealt with an oblique injury and wasn't about to speculate on a time frame for potentially playing again. The Mets recalled Jared Young from AAA Syracuse to provide a left-handed bat off the bench. Of course, Ronnie Mauricio started at third base against the Marlins. Baty, age 25, had a solid season for the Mets, finishing with a 254, 313, 435 slash line with 18 homers and 50 RBIs in 130 games. Baty also was the team's best defensive option at third base while showing proficiency at second. In quote, you are looking at a guy that pretty much established himself in the everyday lineup, manager Carlos Mendoza said. Whether it was third base and what he was able to provide for us offensively, defensively, it's a big blow. Mauricio, who replaced Baty at third base Friday, was starting his first game since August 24th. You have to give him credit because he's working hard. He's working really hard, Mendoza said. One of the conversations that I had with him a couple weeks ago was you never know what can happen fast. He will be ready to go. Following the Mets 5-0 victory over the Marlins, Mendoza tabbed Sean Manaea as the starter for Sunday's regular season finale. David Peterson is available on normal rest to pitch, and presumably the left-hander would be an option from the bullpen if Manaea struggles early. Manaea struggled in a start last Sunday against the Nationals, and 3 days later had a rough relief appearance against the Cubs in which he allowed 2 earned runs over 1 inning. Manaea has pitched to a 7.64 ERA in his 5 September appearances. Mendoza said the only pitcher available Saturday was Nolan McLean, who started Thursday's game against the Cubs. It's like Brendan Sproat, who threw 71 pitches Friday, also was available. Jose Siri and Richard Lovelady, both of whom were designated for assignment in recent days, were outrighted to AAA Syracuse. Well, let's see. Okay, anything else? Hold on a second. Let me see. Okay, 10 moments that define that epic collapse. Okay, so the New York Mets defined 2025 season a 162 game ride that launched with World Series aspirations, ended with a thud at 2:59 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the final day of the regular season. The Mets reported to Lone Depot Park, needing to beat the Miami Marlins and needing the Milwaukee Brewers to beat the Cincinnati Reds to reach the postseason. But New York couldn't handle its business, losing 4-zip to fall short of playing October baseball. The Reds will open a 3-game wildcard series in Los Angeles against the Dodgers on Tuesday. The Mets will go home wondering what happened. Just 3 weeks ago, on September 8th, the Mets owned a 4-game lead over the Reds with 19 games remaining. They had a 92.2% chance to reach the postseason, according to Fangraphs. Even this weekend, when their slide had been going for 3 months, optimism still existed. Day after day, disappointment after disappointment, the Mets repeated the same line. There was too much talent in that clubhouse not to be able to reverse course and play in October. But the reality is the Mets were one of the worst teams in the majors for nearly 2/3 of the season. The Mets woke up on June 13th with the best record in baseball at 45-24. Their playoff odds were 96.2%. They were playing like a team with the second highest player payroll in the majors should play. After that, they morphed into a bottom feeder, going 38-35. That's on the road. No, 35-40, 35-55 for the remainder of the season. Only 4 teams, the Colorado Rockies, Washington Nationals, Minnesota Twins, and the Chicago White Sox, were worse. Those clubs playoff hopes died months ago. Fangraphs calculated the Mets' chances at 33.4% entering Sunday. They were extinguished when Francisco Lindor hit into a double play to end the game. It was the third time since 2007 that the Mets had their playoff hopes dashed with a loss to the Miami Marlins on the final day of the regular season. It all is, and so a franchise with a $340 million payroll, a team that went to the NLCS last season and then signed Juan Soto to the largest contract in North American sports history, could not clear the bar of being one of the National League's six best clubs after 162 games. In the fifth year of Steve Cohen's ownership, a span in which he declared upon buying the team that he expected to win a World Series, the Mets won't even get a chance to play in October for a title. Here are 10 moments that encapsulate the Mets, the franchise's latest collapse. Okay, so starting on, it wasn't even June 13th, it was June 12th. So June 12th, Sanger's season goes off the rails. Okay, so Kodai Senga was one of the best pitchers in the majors for the season's first 6 weeks with a 1.47 ERA through 13 starts. Then he exited his start June 12th with a hamstring injury he suffered covering first base, and that ace level pitcher never surfaced again. Though disappointing for the Mets, which boosted the best rotation ERA in baseball to date, the grade 1 diagnosis was considered encouraging, and Sanger returned a month later with 3 games remaining before the All-Star break. The Mets thought they were getting their ace back. Instead, Sanger becomes a problem. The right-hander posted a 5.90 ERA in 39 and 2/3 innings across 9 outings upon his reinstatement from the injured list. The sudden decline was baffling, not surprising. Both Sanger and the Mets insisted he was healthy. Eventually, with the Mets unable to absorb poor outings in a playoff race, Sanger agreed to an option to Triple-A Syracuse to work on his mechanics. He didn't pitch for the Mets again. Mets said health-wise, he's 100% fine. There's no issues with him. He's not favoring anything. We just haven't been able to help him, whether it's mechanicals or execution, whatever the case might be here. But we haven't gotten there yet. So this is where we're at. But physically, he's fine. Manager Carlos Mendoza. Yeah. June 13th, the beginning of the spiral. In the moment and for the ensuing several weeks, the Mets' 7-5 loss to the Rays on June 13th did not warrant any special attention. The Mets bullpen imploded in a 6-run sixth inning, but the team was still 20 games over 500 with the top record in the National League. Despite a slow start from Juan Soto, it was an annoying loss in a long season. Nothing seems askew. But the result proved to be the beginning of the Mets' downward spiral. The Rays beat the Mets the next 2 days and left New York with a 3-game sweep. And that bullpen collapse proved an early signal of looming trouble. The weekend marked the start of a 7-game losing streak for the Mets. The first of 3 skids of at least 7 losses this season. With that first swoon, their lead in the NL East evaporated. June 29th, blown out and swept by the last place Pirates. The Pirates hosted the Mets in late June, already 18 games under 500. Nearly 2 months removed from Pittsburgh manager Derek Shelton's firing, very little was going right outside of Paul Skeens' performances every fifth day. Um, and yet Pittsburgh pounded the Mets in a 3-game weekend sweep. Pirates, the Pirates, one of the worst offenses in baseball to that point, scored at least 9 runs in each game and outscored the hosts 30-4. They held New York to the 4 runs without Skeens throwing a pitch. Frustration boiled to the point that the Mets held a players-only meeting after Saturday's 9-2 loss. No matter, the Pirates rooted them 12-1 on Sunday to punctuate the series and hand the Mets their 13th loss in 16 games. The Mets said, "We're going to stick together and continue to play as hard as we can to come out of it, and hopefully once we are out of it, we don't go back to something like this." July 18th, costly loss to Cincinnati to open second half. The Mets' first game out of the All-Star break, a home date against the Reds, offered an opportunity for a restart just a half game behind Philadelphia for first place. The optimism did not last. Sean Manaea was effective in his first start after missing 3.5 months with oblique and elbow injuries before coming out of the bullpen in his season debut. You know, oblique injuries, a lot of you may not know that it is a tricky fucking injury in baseball sports today. But his leash was short as he eased into a starter's workload, prompting Mendoza to pull him after 69 pitches over 4 innings with a 2-1 lead. The aftermath essentially cost the team a playoff spot. Alex Carrillo, a 28-year-old right-hander who had made his major league debut earlier in the month, squandered the lead by surrendering 2 runs in the 5th frame. He was eventually charged with 5 runs on 3 hits over 1 1/3 innings. And never pitched for the Mets again. Journeyman left-hander Brandon Waddell, summoned to relieve Carrillo, gave up two runs over the final 3 2/3 innings, as the Mets fell behind 6 runs in an eventual 8-4 defeat. The Mets lost the following day 5-2 before winning the series finale Sunday, but losing the first 2 games sealed the season series for the Reds, giving them the critical tiebreaker between the Cubs. Flip either lost and the Mets advanced to the postseason with a better record than Cincinnati. August 3rd, Montas struggles and Mets lose first place for good. Over the winter, the Mets signed Frankie Montas to a 2-year, $34 million contract with a player option for 2026 after Luis Severino, coming off a rebound season in Queens, declined a similar offer. The pivot yielded disappointing results. Montas strained a lat during spring training and didn't make his season debut until June 24th. That day, he tossed 5 scoreless innings. Otherwise, it was a struggle for the veteran right-hander. With fans clamoring for the organization to call up one of their 3 prized pitching prospects, Montas walked off the mound August 3rd with a 6.68 ERA and 7 starts after surrendering 7 runs over 4 innings to the San Francisco Giants. That was enough for a demotion to the bullpen, where Montas made 2 multi-inning outings over the next 11 days before an MRI revealed a tear in the ulnar collateral ligament in his right elbow. Montas made his final appearance, a 2-inning effort, August 15th, and expected to miss the entire 2020 The entire 2027 undergoing Tommy John surgery in early September. And with that, the Frankie Montas era in Queens is likely over after 38 and two-third innings pitched. It's awful. It's hard for him. He was pretty devastated yesterday when he found out, and rightfully so. It's been a year for him. Walk-off loss to Milwaukee to complete sweep. The Mets traveled to Milwaukee on a 4-game losing streak with 8 losses over their past 9 games. The Brewers, on the other hand, were on a 6-game winning streak. The momentum continued on both sides as New York was swept over the weekend in a series bookend by one-run losses. The finale was particularly painful for the Mets. Nursing a 1-run lead into the 8th inning, Ryan Helsley, one of the 3 relievers the club landed at the trade deadline, surrendered a ground ball that bounced over a diving Pete Alonso at first base for a game-tying 2-out RBI single. An inning later, Isaac Collins swatted a walk-off home run off of Edwin Diaz to send the Mets home with their second of 3 losing streaks of at least 7 games this season. For Helsley, the outing was part of a hellish beginning to his Mets tenure. The hard-throwing right-hander acquired from the St. Louis Cardinals surrendered 20 runs, 16 earned in 13 innings over his first 16 appearances as a Met. Helsley was one of our 4 players that the Mets added at the trade deadline when the team held a half-game lead atop the NL East. The moves were initially lauded, but only right-hander Trevor Rogers fulfilled expectations. In addition to Helsley's struggles, left-hander Gregory Soto posted a 4.70 ERA in 24 appearances, and center fielder Cedric Mullins recorded a 569 OPS in 41 games. The performances, coupled with the Mets deciding not to acquire a starting pitcher, rendered the haul of impending free agents a disappointment. We made the decisions we made at the time with the information we had. I'm very comfortable with the process we went through that led us to those decisions. But yeah, we did not play well during the month of August, and frankly, to this point through September, we've had various segments of our team that haven't performed to the level that we certainly anticipated as we approached the trade deadline. And had I had that knowledge going in, yes, it would have changed what we did. President of Baseball Operations, David Stearns. Yeah, he did a presser. He did a presser in regards to what happened with the Mets collapse. I will talk about that in a future episode, so don't worry about that. 1-run loss opens 4-game sweep in Philadelphia. The Mets arrived in Philadelphia for a 4-game series starting September 8th, trailing the Phillies by 7 games in the NL East. The Mets gave the ball to Nolan McLean for his 5th career start in the opener, and the rookie continued his success in the majors, holding the Phillies to 1 run over 5 1/3 innings. But that was all Philadelphia needed in the deflating 1-zip loss that set the tone for the series. The Phillies outscored New York 26-10 over the next 3 days, completing a thorough sweep to effectively end the division with a season-high 11-game lead with just 15 games remaining. And, of course, you know what happened with September 12th. The Mets returned to New York the next day for a matchup between past and future. For the Mets, 22-year-old rookie Jonah Tong took the mound against the Rangers for his third career start. Opposite him was 37-year-old former Met Jacob deGrom, himself a former Mets homegrown right-hander who became the best pitcher in the world before leaving for Texas in his first start at Citi Field as an opponent. The matchup didn't last long. Tong was bounced in the first inning after giving up 6 runs and securing just 2 outs. On the other side, deGrom, a 2-time NL Cy Young Award winner in Queens, continued his rebound all-star season after 2 injury plague campaigns to begin his career in Texas by holding the Mets to 3 runs over 7 innings, despite registering just 2 strikeouts. It was a different deGrom from the overpowering, untouchable version that had climbed to the sport's peak from 2018 through 2021. And it was plenty good enough to extend the Mets losing streak, which reached a season-long 8 games with a loss the next day. He was a show. He was the guy that people came to the ballpark to watch him pitch. September 21st, Mets drop another series to Washington, fall from postseason position. The Mets' slow-motion plunge breached its nadir in their final home game of the season, a 3-2 loss to the Nationals to drop New York's second series in 6 weeks against the last-place club. Coupled with the Reds' win over the Cubs, the Mets fell out of the playoff position for the first time since April 5th. The result was demoralizing with 6 games remaining. How it happened made it especially so. The Mets sloppy all week and managed just 2 runs against the tandem of Jake Irvin and Mitchell Parker, who entered the day with the 2 highest ERAs in the majors among qualified pitchers. On the other side, the Mets' $38 million piggyback of Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes gave up 3 runs over 6 innings. To top it off, the Mets watched National center fielder Jacob Young make 2 jaw-dropping, game-changing catches. The first, a circus grab in which he kicked the ball to himself, robbed Baty of extra bases in the 5th inning. The second took away a potential game-tying home run for Francisco Alvarez in the 9th. It was a brutal day to end an ugly weekend. Yeah. The end in Miami, in the end, all the Mets needed to do was win. The Brewers defeated the Reds 4-2, while the Mets and Marlins are still on the field, which meant a Mets win would have given them a better record and the final spot in this postseason. Instead, they couldn't muster a single run in front of a Mets-friendly crowd. Three Mets relievers combined to give up 4 runs in the 4th inning, and their closer, Edwin Diaz, was summoned to pitch the 5th and 6th innings to stop the bleeding. They loaded the bases with 2 outs in the top of the 5th, and Pete Alonso hit a 115 miles per hour laser their hardest hit ball all year that Javier Sonoya snagged in left field. They left 10 men on base, went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and finished the season 0-70 when trailing after 8 innings. With a win, Dave would have faced the Dodgers in the division series. Instead, the Mets left for New York after one of the worst collapses in their history. And Lindor says, in quote, "We failed the job. We failed the mission. It was on the players. It was on me to get the job done, and we didn't get it done." Yeah, it's wow. You know, it's crazy, man. It is the craziest shit that I ever had to see because um I gotta say, man, was it disappointing? Yeah, it was. Um, it was disappointing. But let me just say, this is this is crazy, man. Um, this is so crazy. Um, yeah. So there you go, right there. That is what went wrong with the New York Mets and all that other stuff. And yeah, and obviously, you know, the postseason hopes, it didn't happen actually. So I don't know if I want to do that one actually. I don't know if I'm gonna do that one. Um, that's just crazy, man. Um, Probably I'm not gonna do that one. I'm not gonna do that one actually. I'm not gonna do that one. um, you know, I want to say this though, man. I know everybody wants to get rid of Carlos Mendoza, but at the same token, this is his second year. And I know everybody's talking about how there's no leadership, and yeah, that part might be true. That part might be true. And for the most part, yeah, injuries did play a role. Okay, everybody in the Mets team, they're not gonna be perfect. You can't expect them to win every game, knowing that they had a tiring road trip. Yeah, and you know, Clay Holmes actually talked about how how it affected his mental health. You know what I mean? And you know, baseball may be weird, but it's also a psychological thing. Um, so that's just my feeling on this actually. Yeah, so I actually touched on the 10 moments. Yeah, 10 touched on that already. Um, yeah, I actually touched on that already. Actually, um, so yeah, it's it's very very difficult to fathom the whole thing. Yeah, McLean, Sproat, and Tong. Maybe I don't know if I'm gonna do that one, man. I'm not. I don't know if I'm gonna do that one. Let me see. Let me see. This is crazy, man. Anyway, man. Anyway, I'm going to let me see. Let me see. Let me see. If there's any other topics that I wanted to. Yes, yes. Let's talk about Deion Sanders. Let's talk about Deion Sanders. I can't believe he's in his 50s, man. He's in his fucking 50s right now. Let's get into Deion Sanders and stuff, some football news. He had a health scare recently. He had a health scare recently. So let's talk about that, according to the New York Post. So as Deion Sanders adjusts to his normal following a recent cancer battle, the Colorado Buffaloes head coach will continue to vocalize what his current reality looks like. In Wednesday's installment of the Colorado Football Culture Show with Mark Johnson, the NFL Hall of Famer, who revealed over the summer he had his bladder removed after being diagnosed with cancer, spoke about tweaks made to his lifestyle, which includes having a portable bathroom on the sideline at games. You got to make sure you empty your bladder, Sanders said. Sometimes before the games, I use a I use uh, cath- uh, a cat heater, so I can make sure my bladder is empty, so I don't have to. Because when you feel it, you've got to use the bathroom or you start leaking. I'm sorry, but I'm getting explicit. But you start got to take care of it. That's true. Sanders, age 58, opened up about his health scare in July at the University of Colorado news conference. At the time, it was revealed a new bladder had been created from Sanders' intestines following the removal of the original. Dr. Janet um, Kukrija, the director of urological oncology at the University Colorado, said in July Sanders is cured of cancer per ESPN. Sanders said Wednesday that by being outspoken, he's trying to help somebody that's going through the same. It's amazing that everywhere I go, someone comes up to me and tells me about a family member or a friend that has the exact same thing. And thank you for being vocal about it because they are dealing with that right now. It's been at least several people since I've come back, he said. Sanders is in his third season at Colorado after joining the program in 2023. His son, 23-year-old Shadir Sanders, played quarterback for the Buffaloes for 2 seasons and was selected by the Browns in the 5th round of the 2025 NFL Draft after a shocking slide. Sanders' other son, 25-year-old safety Shiloh Sanders, went undrafted and unsigned with the Buccaneers as a free agent. He was ejected from the Buccaneers preseason finale against the Bills for throwing a punch and was later released by the team. Damn. Colorado opened the season with a 27-20 loss to Georgia Tech on August 29th. Although Sanders faced criticism for his time management in the game, the Buffaloes bounced back last Saturday with a dominant 31-7 win over the University of Delaware. The Buffaloes visit the University of Houston on Friday. Yeah. Let me see this. All right. In other football news, let's get into what's going on. In other football news, the New York Giants, right? Let's get to the New York Giants. Let's get to the New York Giants and how they did how they didn't do well with the Commanders. They didn't do well with the Commanders and stuff. So let's get into that right there. All right. And this is according to the folks from ESPN. That's crazy. Anyway, all right. So let's see. All right. So Landover, Maryland. When Washington lost in the NFC title game in January, the Commanders were so overmatched against Philadelphia's tush push that officials threatened to award an automatic touchdown if they didn't stop jumping offside. In this season's opener, it was a different story near the goal line. The Commanders held New York to 3 points total on 2 trips inside the 5-yard line, and Debo Samuel scored an his Washington debut. A 21-6 win over the Giants that took place on Sunday. Actually, 2 weeks ago. Actually, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Actually, Jaden Jaden Daniels threw for 233 yards and a touchdown. You heard me talk about identity and tackling. Commanders coach Dan Quinn said, "We didn't create the takeaways today, but man, seeing some plays down inside the 10-yard line in the red zone, the guys have worked hard at that. Last seen allowing 55 points to the Eagles in that playoff loss. Washington's defense had a much better time of it against the Giants. New York managed only 231 yards of the offense and was particularly ineffective running the ball, gaining 74 yards, 44 of which from quarterback Russell Wilson on 23 attempts. Jeez. With the Commanders up 7-0, Wilson fumbled on third down near the goal line, but he was able to recover at the Washington 2. A fourth down stop was negated by a defensive penalty, setting the Giants up with the first and goal from the 1. New York's next 3 plays: an incomplete pass in the direction of an eligible lineman, a run for a loss of 1, then another incompletion. The Giants finally gave in and kicked the field goal. Down 21-6 late in the fourth quarter, New York had first and goal from the 3, but Wilson threw 4 straight incompletions. Obviously, 6, it's tough to win a game. Giants coach Brian DeBall said, "We left 11 points out there in the red zone." Wow. How crazy is this shit? How crazy is this shit, though? How crazy is this shit? Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway. Mm-hmm. All right. The Commanders never let Wilson look all that comfortable in his first start with New York. The Giants, who went 3-14 last season, did show enough on defense to suggest some improvement is possible. Washington didn't score a point in the second half until Samuel's 19-yard touchdown run made it 21-6 with 7 minutes and 9 seconds to play. Washington faced second and 17 on that drive, but Daniels bounced off a tackle for a 12-yard run, then threw to Samuel for 19 to put the Commanders in field goal range. Moments later, Samuel acquired in a trade from San Francisco in the offseason, took a handoff and swept to the left, shed a tackler, and reached the end zone. The crowd began chanting "Debo, Debo." They'd also been chanting "Terry, Terry" earlier in the game for Terry McLaurin, who finally reached a deal after a lengthy contract dispute and contributed a couple catches in the opener. Oh boy. The Commanders left running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. inactive for this game. A sign he'd fallen behind rookie 7th-round pick Bill Krosky Merritt. Krosky Merritt had 82 yards on a team high 10 carries, including a 6-yard scoring run in the second quarter that made it 14-3. This whole day was amazing, just being able to be on the field with my teammates. Krosky Merritt said, I waited a long time for this. I just want to give these guys thanks for just pushing me and believing in me. Giants pass rush was plenty feared entering the season, and New York did produce 3 first half sacks. The pressure on Daniels also forced an intentional grounding penalty that caused a final few seconds to run out in the first half when Washington appeared assured of at least a field goal. Abdul Carter, the Penn State star New York took with the 3rd pick in this year's draft, had a half sack in his debut. He also blocked the punt in the 3rd quarter. Also, the ball still made it well into New York territory, and the Giants immediately went 3 and out and punted back. Daniels threw a 7-yard touchdown pass to Zach Ertz to open the scoring. Wilson went 17 of 37 for 168 yards, starting with a thud. New York has lost its last 3 openers by a combined 89-12. This was actually the closest of the 3. The Giants lost 28-6 to Minnesota last year and 40-0 to Dallas in 2023. Low risk. After going an incredible 20-23 on 4th down last season, the Commanders didn't go for it all Sunday. If they avoided turnovers and wild swings in field position, it was clear New York would have struggled to score. Injuries includes Giants linebacker Micah McFadden has a leg injury and was carted off on New York's second defensive series. New York wide receiver Malik Neighbors, who had five catches for 71 yards, wouldn't comment on whether his back was 100%. And of course, obviously, yeah. Let's go over what happened with the Cowboys when they go against the Giants, of course. So I did watch that game actually. So this is quite crazy and bizarre actually. So man, so let's get into what happened according to ESPN. Let's get into what happened here, man. Shit. Alrighty then. So let me just scoring plays. Yeah, scoring plays. Grand Gano, 38-yard field goal, 16 plays, 60 yards. And yeah, Graham Gano, 33-yard field goal, 8 plays, 55 yards. Brandon Aubrey, 51-yard field goal, 8 plays, 42 yards. That's the second quarter. Malik Neighbors, 29-yard pass from Russell Wilson. Graham Gano kick, 5 plays, 70 yards. Touchdown, Cavante Turpin, 10-yard pass from Dak Prescott. And the Brandon Aubrey kick. Javonte Williams, 30-yard rush. Brandon Aubrey kick, 6 plays, 90 yards. This is the third quarter. Graham Gano, 33-yard field goal, 5 plays, 52 yards. And of course, fourth quarter, Brandon Aubrey, 44-yard field goal, 11 plays, 56 yards. Touchdown Cam Scat Tebow, 1-yard rush by Graham Gano kick. Touchdown Miles Sanders, 4-yard rush by Brandon Aubrey kick. And touchdown Wandale Robertson, 32-yard pass from Russell Wilson, Graham Gano kick. 7 plays, 63 yards. Touchdown George Pickens, 6-yard pass from Dak Prescott, Brandon Aubrey kick. 11 plays, 71 yards. And Malik Neighbors, 48-yard pass from Russell Wilson, Graham Gano kick. 3 plays, 63 yards. Field goal, Brandon Aubrey, 64-yard field goal, 4 plays, 21 yards. And of course, Brandon Aubrey, 46-yard field goal, 4 plays, 42 yards. That's pretty much the play-by-play. That's pretty much the play-by-play. What went down with the New York Giants and versus the Cowboys. Wow, man. Anyway, let me see. Let me see if there's any injury reports. Let me see if there's any injury reports to get to. All right. Graham Gano, the kicker, it has an injury to a groin. Theo Johnson has an injury to the toe. Malik Neighbors has a shoulder. Wide receiver has a shoulder injury. Raheem Nunez Roaches has a foot injury. Oh shit. Tyrone Tracy Jr. Running back shoulder injury. Demetrius Flanagan fouls. Calf injury. Chauncey Golston ankle injury. Art Green hip injury. John Michael Schmitz neck injury. Darius Muasa concussion. Darius Slayton calf injury. Andrew Thomas foot injury. Aaron Stinney not injury related, personal. Bo Collins, wide receiver, has a hamstring injury. That's insane, man. This is fucking insane, man, with the New York Giants injuries and stuff. That's a damn shame that they're going through this right here. Yeah, a couple of things that I want to say, actually. Also, let's get to the all right. Let's see. Hang on 1 second. Wait, hold on. Yeah, let me see. Garrett Crochet. Hold on a second here. Garrett Crochet. Where did I put? Hold on. Yes, Garrett Crochet. Let's get to Garrett Crochet, actually. Man. Yeah. All right. So I'll share my thoughts in regards to the New York Mets before I wrap up. Actually, um, as the Boston Red Sox entered the final week of their regular season, manager Alex Cora made a bold decision. All along, the Red Sox were slated to use their top three starting pitchers in their Tuesday to Thursday series against the first place Toronto Blue Jays. Lucas Giolito, Brian no, Brian Bello and Garrett Crochet will each take the ball in a massive pleasure situation. This is a little recap. However, rather than maintaining the status quo, the Sox had the Sox have had throughout the second half. Core is rolling the dice. According to Sean McAdam of Mass Live, Cora is flipping Crochet and Bello for the two final games of the Blue Jays series. Crochet would now throw Crochet um, actually throw Wednesday on 4 days rest, while Bello will go Thursday on 6 days rest. That gives Bello a breather, said Cora, per McAdam, and keeps Garrett in line for that one, thanks to Monday's off day, and hopefully for our big one, game one of the World Series. There are countless implications of the decision, but let's try to break down the most important ones. With struggling veteran Max Scherzer pitching on Wednesday for the Blue Jays, Core is betting big on the Red Sox winning that one with their ace on the mound. The slumping Bello is then slated to oppose Shane Bieber, who has thrown the ball well for Toronto on Thursday. Crochet has been far better all season on 5 days rest, 3.58 ERA, then 2.27 ERA. This would, however, give him 5 days to rest before game one of the wild card series if Boston can get there. Is it worth the risk of minimizing Crochet's rest, though, to give Bello an extra day to steady himself? The latter owns a 5.85 ERA and 4 September starts thus far after putting up a sub 3 mark in each of the 3 previous months. And lastly, though Cora may not want to say so out loud, there could perhaps be a slim chance that if he's needed, Crochet could come back to pitch Sunday in game 162 on 3 days rest if the Red Sox need a win. The Detroit Tigers could have Cy Young favorite Tariq Skubal on the bump that day, depending on their own clinching scenarios. All right. Okay. Let me see. Let's see. All right. Let's talk Francisco Alvarez, man. Let's talk Francisco Alvarez. Let's talk Francisco Alvarez for a sec. Yeah, this one was a blow too. It's not just the Griffin Canning injury, but this one was a blow too. All right, so here's what's going on here with Francisco Alvarez's injuries. It's not just the thumb thing, but it's pinky. All right, so here's what's going on here. Here's what's going on that happened previously. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza could not even deliver the news without laughing. He's in the lineup today in AAA, DHing. Mendoza said um, of Francisco Alvarez, whose pain tolerance defies that of normal human conventions. It was just 3 days ago that Alvarez rehabbing a sprained right thumb ligament fractured his left pinky on a hit by pitch. The following afternoon, doctors cleared Alvarez to resume hitting with a splint on his finger. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, Mendoza said he was in the cages taking hacks. Yeah, that part too. 2 days after that, Alvarez returned to the Syracuse club, prepared to resume his path back to the majors, which he did. Both injuries are pain tolerance issues for Alvarez, who will undergo surgery on his right thumb after the season, which he should. The broken pinky should heal on its own, and so far has not affected Alvarez's grip strength. He's got a ligament in his right hand. He's got a pinky fracture in his left, and he's hitting balls in the upper deck, Mendoza said, of the catcher's first batting practice with a fractured finger. There's no hesitation here. He's not favoring anything. He's letting it go. Defensively, Alvarez caught a recent bullpen session with no ill effects. He could return to catching duties for Syracuse as soon as Sunday. Yeah, this was weeks ago. Actually, this was a month ago. Actually, so let's get to what's going on here. As for Alvarez's ultimate return to the majors, that will depend on his production while on his rehab assignment. Playing through pain is one thing, succeeding through pain is another. Mets officials will look for on-field results from Alvarez before ideally bringing him back to the majors after roster expanded in September. Man. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Um, that is so crazy. Hold on. Um, where was I? Yeah, where was I? So overall this season, Alvarez is hitting 265, 349, 438 with 7 home runs in 56 games after returning from a performance-based stint in the minors in late July. Alvarez hit 323, 408, 645 with 4 homers in 21 games before landing on the injured list. He has missed time the past 2 seasons with 4 different hand injuries, including UCL sprains, tears in each of his thumbs, a fractured left handmate bone, and a fractured left pinky. Alvarez's next surgery will be his third in less than 2 years. Oh wow. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, he's gonna need that surgery, man. He needs that surgery. He really does. And of course, obviously, I didn't even notice actually Paul Blackburn is with the Yankees now. That's interesting right there. A week after his final appearance with the New York Mets, right-hander Paul Blackburn signed with the Yankees on Thursday to provide bullpen depth for the American League wild card leaders. Blackburn was originally supposed to be with the Yankees for Wednesday's game against the Rays at Steinbrenner Field, but encountered extensive flight delays in Texas after flying in from Idaho. He did not arrive in New York until early Thursday afternoon after rebooking flights. Yesterday, I spent pretty much all day in the airport with delays and cancellations and everything. Blackburn said before the Yankees opened a 4-game series against the Boston Red Sox. Blackburn was 0-3 with a 6.85 ERA with the Mets this season. Pitched. He last pitched the final 5 innings of an 11-6 loss to Atlanta on August 13th when he allowed 2 runs. Some deaf, Yankees manager Aaron Boone said. Our pen right now is not filled with a lot of guys that give us a lot of length, so obviously a track record of success in the big leagues. Blackburn, age 31, was designated for assignment by the Mets on Saturday to make room for prospect Nolan Lightning McLean. The Mets announced Blackburn was released Tuesday after declining an outright assignment to the minors and clearing waivers Monday. It was tough, but I think it was a good place to start over, Blackburn said. Just kind of contribute any way I can here for the rest of the year and go from there. Blackburn was acquired by the Mets from the A's on July 30th, 2024, and made 5 starts before he was diagnosed with a final, final spinal fluid leak, in his back and had season-ending surgery. He began this season on the injured list because of right knee inflammation, and an illness delayed his season debut until June 3rd. After a 7.71 ERA in 6 appearances, Blackburn returned to the IL because of right shoulder impingement before getting activated last week. It's been weird, Blackburn said. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect or what to do with it. I just came to continue to stay ready, continue to throw, continue to be available unless someone called. Blackburn is 22-31 with a 4.96 ERA in 93 games, 86 starts since debuting with the A's in 2017. He went 7-6 with a 4.28 ERA in 21 games for the A's in 2022 and made his lone All-Star team. To clear room on the roster for Blackburn, Alan Winans was optioned to AAA Scranton on Wilkes Barre. Well, yeah, there you go, right there, man. That was a little. That was a little thing with Blackburn, man. Okay. Okay, Jonah Tong. We gotta really hold on a second here. Hang on a second. Hang on. Domination double A. Wait. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, wait. No. Hang on one second. Okay. Hmm. Okay. All right. So A little recap on Jonah Tong before he got to the majors. Um, so while the New York Mets starting rotation continues its struggles at the major league level, one of their top prospects continues to set the minors ablaze. Their number two prospect, Jonah Tong, number 52 overall, delivered another gem on Tuesday for the Double A Binghamton Rumble Ponies against the Somerset Patriots, the Yankees minor league affiliate. The 22-year-old right-hander delivered five scoreless innings, allowing just 3 hits with 8 strikeouts and 2 walks. The outing lowered his season ERA to a microscopic 1.58 ERA across 97 innings pitched, which also features a double A leading 154 strikeouts. He has been nearly untouchable in his last 4 starts, allowing just 1 run across 18.1 innings pitched while racking up 29 strikeouts. A promotion to AAA seems inevitable, which keeps him on track towards a potential 2026 MLB debut to bolster a Mets rotation that is currently in disarray. Actually, he made his debut this year. It's just that, you know, for what I've been hearing while watching one of the games that he started, it seems like he's not fully developed yet. So, yeah. Starting pitchers not named David Peterson have not completed 6 innings in a game since June 7th, and those 4 continue to misfire. Clay Holmes' production has dipped while doubling his career high in innings pitched after transitioning from reliever to starter. Um, yeah, yeah. Let me not do that. That's So that's pretty much what that is actually. So I'm glad Jonah Tong actually got the chance to experience um, the major leagues, and the fact that he's not fully developed. That's what it is. He's not fully developed, so that's what it is actually. So yeah, pretty much, and also, he did. I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Jonah Tong and Carson Bench represent the Mets in the 2025 MLB All-Star Futures game. All right, so the Stars of Tomorrow kicked off All-Star Weekend in Atlanta on Saturday, which took place over the summer. Actually, the New York Mets had 2 minor league players selected to play in this year's All-Star Futures game. Right-handed pitcher Jonah Tong, number 2 ranked prospect, MLB's number 59 prospect, and outfielder Carson Bench, Mets number 3 prospect, MLB number 74 prospect. Tong so far this season is 6-4 with 1.83 ERA and 125 strikeouts. 7th round draft pick from 2022 has had a phenomenal year for Double A Binghamton. Opposing batters are batting just 141 against him. Benj is another future star tomorrow who has had a breakout season. He has split the first half of this season between single A Brooklyn and double A Binghamton. With double A, he is batting 302, 444, and 512 with a 956 OPS. He has 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and 10 runs scored. They were the 2 minor league all-stars who represented the Mets organization Saturday evening in Atlanta. Tong and Benj came away on the victorious side of the Futures game as the National League's Young Stars defeated the American League 4-2. Tong pitched the top of the second of the National League squad. He tossed a scoreless frame and struck out Seattle Mariners prospect Harry Ford. The American League took the early lead on 1-zip lead in the top of the third. George Lombard Jr. walked and stole second before Max Clark singled to put 2 on. Advancing Lombard to third, Braden Montgomery then grounded out to the right side, which allowed Lombard to score to make it a 1-zip American League lead. They extended their lead in the top of the fourth on Josu Briceño tripled to center field, and Sebastian Walcott followed with a sacrifice fly that scored Briceño um, and made it a 2-zip AL lead. The National League youngsters took over the game and took the lead over the American League in the fourth. Back-to-back singles by Zahir Hope and Jesus made led the way for a 3-run homer by Josu B. Paula that gave the National League a 3-2 lead over the AL. Later in the inning, with 2 on, Owen Casey doubled to score Groover and extend the NL's lead to 4-2. Benj entered the game for the National League in the top of the fifth in left field in substitution of Dodgers prospect Josu De Paula when he came to bat in the bottom of the fifth and flew out to left field to end that inning. He remained in the game to finish out the 7-inning matchup between in the AL and the NL that ended the National League on top 4-2 in a fun battle of the futures of tomorrow. So far, the National League is undefeated for All-Star Week 2025, which continues on Monday with the and the home run derby and all that other stuff. They already I already saw the game. I already covered that already. Just wanted to do a little recap actually of Jonah Tong and Carson Benj, all that great stuff right there. So there you have it. Let's see. Um, Although Tyrone Taylor did make his return from that hamstring strain that he had, actually, I did see him play. Actually, as a matter of fact, I did see him play. Um, I did see him play. I do know. I do know that. Man, yeah, I do know. He did okay, man. And yeah, he's like the best center fielder that he's like the best center fielder that the Mets ever had. Okay, let's see. Tyrone Taylor. Um hmm. Um all right, so the Mets activate Tyrone Taylor, designated Jose Siri on assignment. So let's see. So the New York Mets are clinging to the postseason hopes, holding a razor-thin one-game edge for the final National League wildcard spot. Every roster decision now feels magnified. Every adjustment of potential turning point on Wednesday the Mets made one of those moves, designated Jose Siri for assignment to clear a spot for Tyrone Taylor's return from the injured list. It's the kind of late season shakeup that underscores just how desperately the team needs stability in center field. A gamble on offense over defense. The Mets already tipped their hand Tuesday night by shifting Brendan Nimmo to center field, sacrificing some defense to keep Starling Marte's red hot bat in the lineup as the left fielder. That decision was less about Nimmo's comfort in center and more about necessity, because neither Siri nor Cedric Mullins, two mid-season acquisitions intended to anchor the outfield, had delivered at the plate. Nimmo has been one of the team's most reliable offensive sparks, and the Mets are willing to absorb the defense trade-off if it means maximizing their offensive potential. It's a balancing art, the kind of tough roster math contenders must navigate in September. Jose Siri's Mets tenure never found its footing. After fracturing his tibia in April, he spent months on the sidelines, then returned in September with hopes of reuniting his season. Instead, he struggled mightily at the plate, hitting just 063 at the plate, 063 in 36 plate appearances with a staggering negative 11 WRC plus. The speed and defensive upside that once defined him were overshadowed by uncharacteristic mistakes in the field and a bat that simply didn't come around. It's a harsh reality, but September baseball doesn't leave room for patience. Series flashes of potential weren't enough to outweigh the Mets' immediate need for players who can contribute in multiple ways right now. Taylor gets another chance into Tyrone Taylor, the 31-year-old outfielder, hasn't been much more consistent at the plate than Siri or Mullins. But he brings versatility that the Mets value. Returning from a left hamstring strain that sidelined him for 3.5 weeks, Taylor can pinch hit, pinch run, and serve as a late inning defensive option. That utility role gave him the edge over Siri, as the Mets insider Anthony DiComo first reported on X. Taylor's activation made Siri expendable. The Mets know Taylor may not be a game changer, but they also recognize the importance of depth pieces who can adapt to high leverage moments. So where does that leave the outfield picture? For now, Mullins and Taylor are the Mets' true center field options. But the reality is that Nimmo could see extended time there, especially if Starling Marte can stay in the lineup and shift to left field. Marte's health remains one of the biggest wild cards in this equation, as his ability to produce consistently could free the Mets to deploy Nimmo in center without losing too much offensively in the corners. That's a juggling act the Mets face heading into the season's final week, they'll maximize the bats of Nimmo and Marte while finding just enough defense up the middle to prevent games from slipping away. In a playoff chase where one misplay fly ball or one empty at bat could tilt the standings, the margin for error is thinner than ever. A high wire act down the stretch, the decision to DFA Jose Siri is more than just a transaction. It's a statement about urgency. September baseball is unforgiving, and the Mets have chosen flexibility and upside over waiting for a struggling player to figure it out. It's not unlike walking a tight rope. One wobble, one step too far in either direction, and the whole season can unravel. For the Mets, every move from here on out must be steady and precise. And with a wild card spot hanging in the balance, there's no room left for hesitation. Yeah, 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 that's pretty interesting. That's interesting, though, man. But I was actually saying to one of the YouTubers about the whole Central Mullins thing. This is a guy who fucking misplayed that ball in center field as he slid down to thinking that he was going to catch the ball, but he didn't. And and look, man, of course, not every because you got to remember Cedric Mullins is a fucking rental. He's not coming back. Okay, he's not coming back. And I will say this though. The whole the, the whole collapse thing, I don't think it's a collapse. It's more of the New York Mets as a team. They fell apart. They fell apart. One, they're not clicking with one another. They're not believing in themselves. They're not they're not believing in themselves. They are not only lacking confidence, but they feel it's like, the whole high expectations thing kind of like it's not the only thing that kind of got to them. It's more of the fact that they keep self doubting themselves with all the mental errors, um, everything in between, man. And yeah, and I am a little stunned and disappointed. Yes, I am stunned and disappointed, and it's crazy to me because with all the injuries that they had, and and I bring this up because I was watching Sports Extra last night, and Jennifer Williams had a Fox reporter on Disha. Um, I forget her last name, but she did mention about organization having a clean house as far as like the coaching staff, as far as like the coaching staff, as far as like internally, because the fact of the matter is, I don't think they're going to. I don't think. I don't think you could change managers every 2 years. That's not gonna fucking work though, man. That's not gonna work. And and I have to agree with what Wardy was talking about in terms of the New York Mets not having an identity as far as like who they are as a team. Who are the Mets? And that's the question. And and yeah, and yeah, and Juan Soto said that this game was a failure, and of course, I kind of like what Peter Alonso was saying in regards to the game that they lost to. I mean, you could be confident and passionate all you want, but you're not going. It's not going to guarantee you any. It's not going to guarantee you um, wins. It's not going to guarantee you wins for what I was picking up as I was listening yesterday during the post game on SNY. You can play good baseball. You could try to play good baseball all you want, but sometimes there are things that's never gonna go your way. Even if even if you even if you play good baseball, there's sometimes um you're not gonna always have a good game. You're not gonna always have any luck. And I feel like sometimes we get carried away with the whole high expectations and stuff. They it seems to me that they weren't having any fun with all the high expectations um being stacked against them. And yeah, and I like I like the idea that some of the Mets content creators and stuff, some of the Mets fans are actually they actually hate what went down. And like I said, man, I mean, look, there's no such thing as a perfect baseball team. I even mentioned what Vito Calisi from Me at the Apple podcast was saying. Sometimes you're gonna have teams that are going to be better than the New York Mets. There's some pitchers on opposing teams that's gonna be a tough battle to actually win games. It is not easy. It is not easy gaining a sweep. It's not easy gaining any sweeps. You know how many sweeps that the Mets have this year? As I counted, 8 sweeping wins. 8. Can you believe that? Can you believe that shit? And I know they've been impacted with so many injuries and stuff. And I think sometimes, with all that self-doubt saying that the Mets don't deserve to go to the playoffs and stuff. They didn't do their job. I get that. But it seems to me that they were exhausted. They were exhausted. They were burnt out. It seems to me that they were burnt out, exhausted. Go figure. I mean, like I said earlier, it's baseball is a weird sport, and it's a mental thing. Look, people got to understand, including some of the sports reporters from SNY and all the other sports stations and radio shows and sports podcasts and stuff like that. Look, man. Look, you look. Sometimes you're gonna have good games, and sometimes you're gonna have bad games. 162 games in a year is a lot. It's a lot, man. And you talk about how you want to get rid of Mendoza. Look, you can't. You look. Every person has flaws, right? Every person has flaws. You're not going to be able to win every fucking game. It's kind of like impossible in a sense. The coulda, shoulda, woulda, could have won that game, could have won those games against the Nationals and Miami and all that other stuff. That's not going to really. That's not going to help them. That's not going to help them be better. The what ifs, the coulda, shoulda, woulda, it's not going to really help. It's not going to help. And I feel like sometimes we get carried away, we get spoiled, we're trying to get so many sweeps and stuff. And the fact of the matter is, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. Is it easy being a Mets fan? Not really. Not really. Yeah, you're gonna have disappointments, you're gonna have heartbreaks, all that stuff, man. But at the end of the day, These Met players are human beings just like us. And you worried, and you worried about getting, and you worried about trying to make it to the playoffs and stuff like that. When Brett Baty, as I talked about, um, has an oblique injury and he's out for the season. That's another thing that happened. It's not just the last Miami Marlins game that the Mets were playing. They didn't have their key player, Brett Baty, who's been doing so well, working very hard to be a better player. And it's not Brett Baty's fault that it's not Brett Baty's fault. It's on the players. You feel what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna waste my time trying to bash the New York Mets though, man. They 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 gave it their all, but even though they didn't even though they didn't do their best. Even though they didn't do their best as far as like the games that they played, especially in June and through September. Okay, I get it. But like I said, man, the fact of the matter is this. You can't really dwell on the mistakes that's being made. And you know, mistakes is going to happen. Injuries is going to happen. You feel what I'm saying? And yes, there is going to be a long off season. And last time I checked, the off season doesn't start till October 31st, which is around Halloween time. All right. Um, Look, I'm gonna just move on from that. Actually, sure, they didn't play their best. I get it, but let me move on. I'm gonna move on to some lighter stuff, man. Some lighter stuff, man. Yeah, they fell apart. All right, they fell apart. Yes. Let me see. Let me see. Before I go on to the Rumble Ponies and their wins and stuff, I did see this actually. I did see this actually. Of course, this was posted on September 28th on Saturday. Latest injuries: Reed Garrett has a right elbow sprain, and he's gonna have to get Tommy John surgery alongside with Francisco Alvarez, and it will knock him out all 2026. And of course, obviously Jesse Winker is going to be out due to lower back inflammation, and he'll likely be back in 2026. Um, Christian Scott sprained UCL in the right elbow. He'll return in 2026. He underwent a hybrid Tommy John surgery in September 2024 and will miss the entire 2025 campaign. Began throwing for the first time again on March 11th and graduated to bullpen sessions in August with an eye toward 2026. Max Kranick, right flexor strain. Um, he was on the injured list since June 19th, transferred to the 60-day IL on July 25th. Expected return 2026. Underwent season-ending flexor tendon surgery in July. That operation gives him a chance to be ready at some point in 2026, which wouldn't have been the case. He wouldn't have been the case had he needed Tommy John surgery, as Mets officials is initially feared. Drew Smith, recovery from Tommy John surgery with internal brace. Expected return. He was on the 60-day IL. He'll return in 2026. Underwent surgery in July 2024. Subsequently signed a 1-year deal with a 2026 team option on to return to the Mets, who are overseeing his rehab. Has been throwing bullpen sessions and should advance to live batting practice soon. Daniel Nunez, right elbow sprain. He was on the injured list July 3rd, transferred to the 60-day IL on July 21st, and expected return in 2026. Underwent the second Tommy John surgery of his career in July. Will miss the rest of the year and likely most of the next season as well. Griffin Canning ruptured left Achilles tendon, the most common injury in sports of baseball, football. You just named the sport though, man. He is he was on the injured list, the 60-day IL since June 27th. He'll return in 2026. Ruptured his Achilles tendon on June 26th and had season-ending surgery the following day. Should require at least 9 months of rehab before returning to the mound. Will be a free agent after the season. AJ Minter, left lat surgery. He was on the injured list since April 27th, transferred to the 60-day IL on May 1st. He'll return in 2026. Underwent season-ending surgery May 12th in Chicago after tearing his lat muscle off the bone. Hopes to have a normal spring training in 2026. And of course, Danny Young, left elbow ligament sprain. Um, he was on the IL since April 30th, transferred to the 60-day IL on May 4th. Expected return in 2026. Underwent an MRI on April 30th that revealed a sprain. Subsequently decided to undergo Tommy John surgery, which will cost him the rest of this season and part of 2026. Nick Madrigal, fractured left shoulder. He he was on the injured list since February 25th, 60-day IL, and expected return in 2026. Dislocated and fractured his shoulder during a February 23rd Grapefruit League game and subsequently underwent season-ending surgery. Under team control through 2026, should the Mets decide to tender him a contract. Well, ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? Um, yeah, ain't that some shit? Anyway, all right, so let's go on to something. Let's go on to something that. All right, so let's go on to. Let me see. One second. One second. Um. All right. All right. Let's go to Rumble Ponies. All right. All right. Rumble Ponies. Okay. Come on. All right. Yeah, so as far as what's going to happen in the off season, um, we have to wait on decks to find out to find out some major changes that's going to happen. And as far as on decks with the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Let's get into that right here. The Binghamton Rumble Ponies defeated the Somerset Patriots 5-4 in Game 2 of the Eastern League Northeast Division Series on Thursday night at Mirabito Stadium. Binghamton swept Somerset in the best of 3 ELDS and advanced to the Eastern League Championship Series. Binghamton will play in the ELCS for the 5th time in franchise history and the first time since 2023. Binghamton raced out to a 5-0 lead against the right-hander Carlos Lagrange. With 2 runs in the 3rd inning and 3 runs in the 5th inning. In the 3rd inning, shortstop William Lugo drew a 1-out walk with 2 outs in the frame. Center fielder A.J. Ewing hit a stand-up RBI triple that put Binghamton ahead 1-0. Left fielder Nick Morbido fouled with a line drive to right field that resulted in an error, and Ewing scored to make it 2-0. Binghamton had the first 4 batters reach in the 5th inning, and 3 of them scored. Designated hitter Nick LaRusso drew a leadoff walk, and Lugo fouled with the double. Second baseman Wyatt Young then hit an RBI single on the first pitch, which made it 3-0. Ewing fouled with an RBI single that made it 4-0. And a couple of batters later, third baseman Jacob Reimer drove in Young on a sacrifice fly that put the Ponies ahead 5-0. Right-hander Jack Winninger started for Binghamton and dazzled. Winninger earned the victory and finished with 9 strikeouts over 6.0 scoreless innings and allowed just 1 hit and 1 walk. Somerset played it 4 runs in the 7th inning against the right-handers Sal Garcia and TJ Shook, which cut Binghamton's lead to 5-4. The frame was highlighted by designated hitter Jackson Castillo's RBI hit, an error that plated 2 runs, and second baseman Max Burt's RBI single. Right-hander Carlos Guzman pitched a scoreless 8th inning and worked around a leadoff single. It marked Guzman's second scoreless outing of the postseason. Right-hander Ryan Lambert pitched a perfect 9th inning and recorded his second save of the postseason. The Rumble Ponies continued the 2025 Eastern League postseason with Game 1 of the Eastern League Championship Series against the Southwest Division champion on Sunday at Mirabito Stadium. First pitch is set for 4:05, and the game will be broadcast on WMBF News Radio 1290 and 92.1 FM. And of course, by the way, Binghamton wins 2025 Eastern League Championship with Game 3 win at Erie. Let's take a look at this, man. Yeah, they did the sweep. Erie, is it Erie, Pennsylvania? Yeah, Erie, Pennsylvania. The Binghamton Rumble Ponies defeated the Erie Seawolves 8-2 in Game 3 of the Eastern League Championship Series on Wednesday night at UPMC Park. With the victory, Binghamton won its 4th Eastern League Championship in franchise history and its first since 2014. Binghamton also won the Eastern League title in 1992, 1994, and 2014. Binghamton dropped Game 1 of the series, but won the following 2 games while facing elimination to claim the Eastern League title. Binghamton finished the regular season with a franchise record 90 wins, had the best record in AA, won the first half and second half Northeast Division titles and won the Eastern League Championship. With the game tied 2-2 leading heading into the sixth inning, Binghamton took the lead with 3 runs on 2 home runs. Third baseman Jacob Reimer led off with a first pitch opposite field solo home run off left-hander Andrew Sears that put Binghamton ahead 3-2. Right fielder DeAndre Smith fouled Reimer's home run with a single off right-hander Trevin Michael, and then catcher Chris Suro launched a 2-run home run that extended Binghamton's lead to 5-2. It marked Reimer's first home run of the postseason and Suro's second long ball of the postseason. Right-hander Joander Suarez pitched a scoreless 6th inning and worked around a 2-out double. Right-hander TJ Shook gave up 2 hits to open the 7th, but retired the next 3 batters with 2 strikeouts and went unscathed in the 7th inning. Shook stranded runners on 2nd and 3rd. Right-hander Carlos Guzman recorded the 6-out save, which marked his first save of the postseason. Binghamton added to its lead in the 9th inning against right-hander Richard Gouache. Smith hit a 2-run single and Suro, followed with a sacrifice fly that put the Ponies ahead 8-2. Right-hander Jack Winninger started for Binghamton and earned the win. He recorded 11 strikeouts over 5.0 innings while allowing 2 runs on 3 hits. Winninger recorded 10 strikeouts over the first 4.0 innings. He struck out 11 of the 15 batters that he retired. His season high in strikeouts in the regular season was 11 against Hartford on July 6th. Binghamton raced out to a 2-0 lead against Sears in the first inning. Center fielder A.J. Ewing led off with a single on the first pitch on the game. With 2 outs in the frame, Smith and Suero hit back-to-back RBI singles. Erie tied the game against Winninger with 2 outs in the 4th inning. Right fielder Ben Malgeri hit a game-tying 2-run single that made it 2-2. Binghamton regained the lead on Reimer's home run in the 6th inning and extended the lead on Searle's 2-run shot. 2 batters later and led the rest of the way. The Rumble Ponies will open the 2026 regular season against the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, AA Toronto Blue Jays on April 3rd at Delta Dental Stadium. Second baseman Wyatt Young went 2 for 4 with 2 doubles and finished the postseason hitting 533, 8 for 15 with 3 RBIs, 4 runs, 2 B. I'm not sure what the B stand for, and 4 4 doubles. Young hit 636, 7 for 11 with 2 RBIs, 3 runs, 2 B. I think 2 walks, man, 2 walks, and a walk in the Eastern League Championship Series. Smith went 3 for 5 with 3 runs batted in and 2 runs. Suro went 2 for 4 with a home run and 4 runs batted in. Ewing went 2 for 5 and recorded a multi-hit game. Designated hitter Nick LaRusso went 2 for 4 with 2 singles. Yeah. Congratulations to to the Binghamton Rumble Ponies for winning the championship, man. That's yeah, that's congratulations is a good call actually. Let's make some noise for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies for actually winning the championship. You know what I mean? All right, so let's make some noise for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies for winning the championship. Did I just see that? Did I just see a notification by Wardy that Carlos Mendoza is returning? Yeah, he's returning. He's returning. All right, he is returning. Yeah, that's two congratulations. Carlos Mendoza is returning as a manager, and congratulations to the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna wrap up right here, man. But I want to make up. I want to make it. I want to make it up for my tablet for being, for being funny. Actually, so let me just do this one more time. Actually, so before I wrap up here. Go. All right. All right. We're gonna wrap up this episode right here with this last segment right here, which is something like this. Stream choices on the go, man. Let's get to it right here, right now. All right, folks. Make sure you follow the Sports Edition Show, Excellent Fun Vibrant Talks podcast on Facebook, alongside with Blue Sky Social, Threads, and Instagram. The same goes with my other podcast shows, the Entertainment Review Show, Meticulous Vibes podcast, and of course, my comedy Off the Meat Rat Chains New York Avenue podcast is also on the same social media platforms. And of course, you can follow your host with the most G Money Stacks 555 in Queens, New York, which is the same username on Threads and Instagram. All right. And when you go to the link in bio, you're gonna see Linktree / Excellent Fun Vibrant Talks pod. You click on there, you're gonna see a whole list of stream platforms, stream platform podcast feed links. All right, you're gonna go through the list of stream platforms. I'm gonna start off with Audible, Odyssey, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts alongside with 5 stars. And tell me your feedback, some positive feedback, how you feel about the sports topics in today's episode and any other episodes whatsoever. All right. So yeah, there you go. All All right, Cashbox FM, Diesel, Listen Notes, Moon FM Podcast, Overall FM Podcast, Player FM, Pocket Cast, Pandora, Podo Polo, Podorama, Podcast Index, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Podverse, Podcast Guru, Podcatcher, Podcast Republic. You can also listen to the episodes on Snipped, Spotify. Add the podcast to your Spotify playlist, and also make sure you press the notification bell so you'll be notified on when each new episode will be releasing on Spotify and streaming platforms. And you can also listen on Spotify for creators. You can also comment on there as well. TuneIn Radio, Fountain, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, the number one app where you can listen to your favorite music artists, such as rappers, singers in R&B, and other music genres. And of course, hip hop is included. You can listen to your favorite AM and FM radio stations, and of course, you can listen to the sports podcast episodes for free. You don't need a credit card or debit card to download iHeartRadio. All you need to do is follow and subscribe to Excellent Fun Vibrant Talks podcast, the sports platform show on every streaming platform that I just mentioned, and of course, YouTube is included as well. If you have a YouTube app, please feel free to hit that subscribe button on there, and make sure you turn on your notifications so you'll be notified on when I'll be on the air live with new topics in sports, new topics in baseball, football, some basketball news. I will be mentioning some schedules involving the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks sometime in the next episode, as far as their schedule and TV channel schedules and stuff. Probably in the next episode. Leave a like and a comment on the sports topics. Tell me how you feel with the sports topics in this episode and each episodes that you listen to. And of course, make sure you share the podcast link with the Linktree with the podcast feed links with your husbands, your wives, your boyfriends, girlfriends, people you're cool with from work, and of course, spread the word. Spread the word. Word of mouth is important. If you spread the word to everybody who is a sports fan, whether they are a Mets fan, whether they are a New York Giants fan, whether they are a basketball fan or the New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets, whether it's street ball, whatever it may be, man, whatever it may be, make sure you show your support. Show your support by subscribing to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me. If you subscribe to the channel. I want to actually raise the subscriber numbers from 18 and up. All right. So yeah, there you go. Of course, more video podcast episode, live stream recordings, and of course, new episodes will be dropping on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on every streaming platform whenever you listen, stream, and watch your podcast. All right, folks. I'm about to take off and get out of here. And the reason why I had to play those sound effects is because I didn't want to end the podcast episode on a sad note with the Mets collapse and all that other stuff, which is not really a collapse per se. Actually, it's more like they fell apart. There wasn't any. They weren't clicking with one another. They haven't executed. They haven't done the job. Whatever it may be, whatsoever. It is what it is, man. Turn the page. You can also try to be try to be. And for those who keep mentioning bringing Carlos Beltran, right? He already has a manager job with Team Puerto Rico, as I talked about that in a previous episode. Actually, he took the job as a manager for Team Puerto Rico. And look, man, I know every single person is going to bring up the controversy of the sign stealing scandal or whatever it may be. Listen, man, every human being has made mistakes, man. Nobody's fucking perfect. So let's just not be fucking hypocrites here, man. You know what I'm saying? And I would like to actually add to the fact that some of you Mets fans wanted Carlos Mendoza fired, but this is like his second year as manager. I mean, come on, man. Listen, like I said, you're not gonna always get everything right whatsoever. He's human, and there was very little that he could do. And I think sometimes, we forget that there's people above Carlos Mendoza, that the head office, the analytics. You get the gist of this shit, though. Now look, man. That's gonna do it for me, man. I'm your man G Money Stacks, aka the Gregonator, rhymes with now or later. And I like to say thank you to every single one of you who took the time to actually listen to the episode and actually had the chance to actually listen to the topics and hear me out on certain things. And yes, today's episode title is On Decks, which is dedicated to the New York Mets. And as far as like the off season, as far as like a little recap of what happened in the summertime down in the minor leagues and stuff. Everything in between, as far as off season, I'm going to cover what's going on in the off season whatsoever. And yes, I am going to cover the New York. Just because baseball season is over doesn't mean I'm not going to cover the New York Giants. I got y'all with the New York Giants and stuff, man. I got y'all with the New York Giants though, man. And I missed that, and I have missed that game I missed that game yesterday, actually. I didn't get a chance to watch the New York Giants play. I did miss it, but I will recap with some highlights and some recaps and stuff. That's exactly what I do. I like to recap the highlights and stuff as far as how the New York Giants did. You know what I mean? And look, remember, the grind doesn't stop. Hard work pays off. If you want something, you have to work hard and earn it. It's not going to be given to you on a fucking silver platter. And of course, if you're looking for something that's like creative and relaxing and therapeutic, and you want to start a podcast, it's never too late to start one. And of course, there's no right or wrong way into hosting your own podcast. There's no right or wrong way into there's no right or wrong time, is what I meant to say. There's no right or wrong time to starting a podcast, all right? Whatever is going on with your life, whatsoever, you can actually express yourself. All right. Now look. Follow your goals and dreams. Don't let anybody stop you from doing that. All right. And of course, be on your P's and Q's. Be yourself behind the microphone as you are recording your your podcast episodes and topics and stuff creatively, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, that gets you into your zone alongside with tunnel vision. All right. And also another thing, um, remember, if you're starting a podcast, it is a marathon, not a fucking sprint. All right. And also, like I always say, when it comes to the New York Mets, there is no overnight fix. There is no overnight fix. There is no overnight miracle fixes. Okay, like, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. You feel what I'm saying. Everybody's human. Everybody's gonna make mistakes. Everybody's gonna make mental mistakes, mental errors. I mean, that's part of being human, and that's part of, and I believe from what Juan Soto was talking about, it was the game was a failure. First of all, baseball is like a game of failure. Okay, like, you're not going to be able to win every fucking game, even though the Mets had 8 sweep wins. It is not easy. It is not easy to sweep every opponent team. It's not easy. Sure, maybe disappointing and stuff like that, but are you going to let all these Mets losses ruin your sanity and your fucking mental health? Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself, okay? I noticed all that. I noticed all that when I was watching Wardy's live stream with Jake Brown and, of course, Dexter Henry, along with that guy from what's his name, man? That guy from SNY, man. That that's always blunt on things. Ty. I forget his name anyway, but anyway, man, he was featured in straight out of Flushing Mets podcast. Listen, man, you're a human being. You are human. Listen, you are. Sorry about that. Listen, at the end of the day, you are all human beings. You're gonna everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's gonna deal with things in their own ways. All right. So please do not even think about ending your life by killing yourself over every Mets loss, because because the fact of the matter is, not everything is all doom and gloom, and you think the sky is falling. Come on, man. Come on. All you gotta do is just turn the page and not think about that shit too damn much, man. Like, come on. Yes, mistakes is gonna happen. We are all human beings, and y'all acting like y'all never played a baseball game in your life. Like seriously. Like, we all got to stop being hypocrites sometimes. You're not gonna always get what you want either. And look, man, I'm not one of those New York Mets fans who is going to actually rant and rave and stuff, because you got to think about your sanity and your mental health. You feel what I'm saying? All right, folks. I'm about to be out of here. I'm about to take off. I'm about to look up some more topics. The Carlos Mendoza returning story and all that other stuff. I'll be back next time in the next episode. And believe it or not, you chose to listen to this. You chose to listen to this. You could have listened to any other podcast in the whole world, but you chose to listen to the Sports Edition show, Excellent Fun Vibrant Talks podcast. You could have, yeah, and yeah, I appreciate every single one of you for listening. I love y'all, and I appreciate every single one of you out there. Peace and one love. Make sure y'all have your blankets ready. Make sure you have your blankets your blankets ready. Make sure you have your warm clothes ready. Your jogging pants, your windbreakers, your sweaters, your hoodies, all that other stuff ready. Because fall is here. All right. And I want y'all to stay warm. I'll see y'all on the flip side, man. Peace and one love. Let's go Giants. Let's go New York Giants, and let's go Mets. Let's fucking go New York Mets. All right. Good night, everybody.